Russia, Ukraine, let's start there.
Start there. Okay.
Yep, that's what is more interesting currently.
It's more interesting than what we wish we knew.
Exactly.
So it's interesting. We've been saying this with the boys. These are things we used to read, watch on movies or documentaries and all, and now we're seeing it live. So as much as it's not something we'd advocate for, but it's also a good time to watch and understand live how markets are affected, what is happening in the markets, how they're going to react, the different economies around the world. You boys were saying what? Kenya's joined NATO?
Kenya is in the NATO alliance.
Trying to put sanctions on China.
A statement to Russia.
Saying what?
I'm not sure. I never read the statement. But obviously, I don't think Kenya can have any impact on what is really happening across the world. Like, I feel like we're the small, the people who get hurt when two bullies fight. Like wale kwa Kiswahili walikuwa wanasema aje?
About usiniulize.
Kupigana bas, nyasi umia. Nyasi ndo nyasi bas. Sasa sisi ndo tunapitia hiyo, but okay, it has not escalated to that point. But I think actually another point, just I'm not sure if you had cleared.
Just continue. We're discussing, yeah.
But I think for me, it's always coming back to what I've told you, Caleb. Like, these are things you've read. Like, this is history repeating itself. Like, these are things which people never think can happen, but now they're happening. Like, if you told someone there was World War I, World War II, now there could be World War III, you know, someone would say, now people are more civilized, diplomatic. But the invasion that is currently happening is just showing us that civilization has not taken out some of the elements of human nature. Same old patterns keep on repeating. If you look at the stock market, we had the Great Depression after the World War I, right? In 1929. Many people have compared what is currently happening in the stock market over the last few years to what was happening during that time. For example, if you read the works of Ray Dalio, The Changing World Order, like I was telling you, there's a lot that is currently happening which looks like what happened some time back. For example, he argues that the rise of a superpower to challenge an economic power is one of the reasons why things tend to change. For example, now China is currently challenging the US. If you're following what is happening between China and US and Russia, the US has imposed sanctions. Australia, Germany, many countries have imposed sanctions on Russia. But China has shied away and instead is actually saying that sanctions won't help solve the situation. So if you think about that broadly, that really brings in some aspect of, okay, why are the other countries giving out sanctions? Why not you? Are you guys supporting what is currently happening? Are you guys saying that this should be the right way to solve problems? Like, it's a complex situation which you can't just boil down to one or two things. But I think the most important thing that we should currently be observing is that there are very, very heightened risks about what could be happening over the next few weeks. If you track markets, there's rising inflation. I think oil is now at its highest for the last, I think, a couple of years. We've not seen oil that high. I think the last time we saw it that high was some few years ago.
Yeah, let me check.
If you look at a market like gold, it's about 2,000. So there are very many things which are happening, which, if you look at the cycle, like Lau is saying, Dalio talks about the long-term debt cycle coming to an end. We're at that point.
This was in 2014.
2014, yep. Now we're back there. And I think there's a high chance it could even break past that. If the war continues, I don't see why oil couldn't get to $140 a barrel, the last high that was seen in 2008.
The highest high.
Yeah.
There was a war at that time.
In 2014, yeah. Between Russia and Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
But that time it was the peninsula or whatever.
It's mild.
Yep. So I don't see why oil couldn't get to $140 a barrel if inflation keeps on persisting. And in inflation and war, that's very, very dangerous. If you look at the Weimar Republic in Germany, that's one of the examples where we saw hyperinflation. So we could now be going to a period of even hyperinflation. Now not inflation anymore, but hyperinflation. It's a very, very risky situation.
Like today morning I was looking at, sorry to interrupt, on commodities. Commodities and commodities, basically not even metals. Things like wheat today morning was up 7%, corn was up 6%,
exactly.
Soybeans was up 4%.
That tells you inflation is really coming.
How up is the VIX? Because
VIX is up 18%. It's at 36.5 right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So prices of things will of course most likely
rocket.
Yeah.
Yep. travel will also be low. Who wants to be in there when people are fighting? Missile takupata
What
huko
we've
juu.
seen Ukraine has shot down 5
planes from Russia.
Yeah.
So it's not really a very, very interesting time. It's a very, very risky time, especially for the people in Europe. I think Europe are the people who are facing the greatest danger because they're surrounded by what is currently happening in Ukraine.
Yeah.
If you look at countries like Germany, these countries that are just around Europe, Poland is expecting 5 million immigrants from Ukraine or more. It's a very complex situation,
especially for the people on the ground. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's why I'd start looking at it from a historical perspective. Nothing new, but you have to think hard about the dangers, and also you have to think about if this thing continues. Because like I was joking with you, I remember when you started looking at COVID, no one in Kenya cared about COVID. And also us, the only reason we cared about COVID was it was affecting markets a bit.
Of course, so we have to watch it.
Exactly. So we started watching COVID. I remember there was this documentary we were watching with Lavi about COVID. And we realized, so this thing is serious. And it was just in Wuhan, China. It had not even spread to the whole of China. It was just where it started.
I remember that time, Dalio and the likes were starting to talk about it.
Exactly. So it just where it started, and they declared a state of emergency, and that you couldn't move, there was a lockdown in Wuhan. And we just thought it would end there. But what happened was it escalated all the way to a lockdown in Kenya. Worldwide. Actually. That's what I mean. So right now you should also think along the context. Yes, the probabilities of maybe us going into a full-scale world war is quite low, at least at the moment.
But you should have it in the back of your mind.
Exactly. But the unexpected will happen from time to time. And it's when the unexpected happens that great opportunities come in the market. So I think that is also one thing that you should remind people.
Opportunities and gearing yourself.
Yep.
I think that is also another thing. Okay, not a good thing ideally, essentially, but
what
in terms of trading? In terms of trading, as a trader, you can make money in terms of like when COVID happened.
Yeah,
there was money.
Remember, we made money on gold.
Yeah.
Remember
the gold rush?
Yeah, the gold rush.
Yeah. Because it's like what you're saying. We're going to see a lot of people like what we saw happening. You remember on Billions. Yeah. The guy profited from negative things happening to people. People are dying. Is that the point you are going to say?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, makes sense.
Trading, you can
make money.
Still make money when things are bloody.
In fact, most money is made when things are bloody.
Exactly.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of money is made during those times.
Like the moment,
because Moscow just. The exchange today alone, you said it's down to about 57. Today alone, it's down 37%.
37%.
Today alone, 40%. One day. I think it's the biggest drop they've had. I don't know, but I think it's
one missile.
Having a stock
and
market
the day is
for
not even 12 hours. So.
US calls a day, Janza.
Yeah.
London just opened. It's 11. Yeah. London has just opened. In the US, people are still asleep. Some people don't even know we still have a full-scale invasion.
Exactly. So and I think it's first of all, I think I can give a brief. Okay, what I know. I don't know deep about it so much, but why is Russia doing this to Ukraine? First of all, why are they so narcissistic? See.
Yeah,
exactly. So
that's what you'd say.
That is so narcissism, man. Like exactly, everyone in the world is telling you don't do this, and you ask there like no, me I'll do it. So
actually, it's like I'm up for talks. The next thing you sing a missile has landed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a war strategy. Like what you're communicating and what you're doing is sending people off.
Like different signals,
so they don't understand your motive.
Exactly.
You tell them this, you do the opposite.
Exactly.
Like, sasa huyu jamaa tumuelewi tena, is unpredictable.
There's even this meme from Family Guy. He'll show what Putin is doing to the world. So he comes with an AK-47, but not an AK-47. It's a lighter.
Here are the American spies we captured, Mr. Prime Minister.
So sending mixed signals is a way to confuse your
enemies.
True.
Yeah. So what point was I on?
Because that's the last point I remember. Remember, Ken was seeing that.
And even markets rebounded. Yeah.
We're like, hey, okay. That time I remember I was even now more bullish. I remember I was long on Dow Jones.
More bullish.
So I was like, if this guy's up for talks, then there's more room maybe. The next thing, I'm waking up in the morning, missiles shall land.
Exactly. So it's been hot. So I think just a brief reason is for people who don't understand, and I think we mentioned it in one of the previous episodes, is Ukraine is a former Soviet Union state, but they left after World War II. So the fact that they left, they knew so much about how Russia works, how the Russia military works. So it's like today you and Ken divorce. Ken knows everything about FAB. I know everything about FAB. Yeah. See,
and you're going to start your own company.
Yeah,
now.
Me, I'm now going there, and you feel like, hey, if Taras goes there, man, he has strategies that. Exactly. So Russia still believes Ukraine joining NATO is risky, even just for their military. You see, so they are pressing so much for Ukraine to not even come back as a nation, because they decided, okay, you can become your independent nation. But now joining, because now NATO is basically like a military alliance. But now, giving your military powers now to the West, they felt like it's sort of betrayal. See, so for them, they want Ukraine, as much as you can be an independent country, your military is still under Soviet Union. You're not in NATO. So. But Ukraine is positive to staying in NATO. They are there for they are solid. They are not coming out. US is even telling them, don't worry, we are here to support you. Hakuna mtu anatoa NATO bana. So that is the main issue. And now for Putin, now the best way kutumia mimi what I have in my store, in my military stores, and that guy is loaded.
Crazily, he is waiting for a war. I was seeing a part, he was just waiting for someone to disturb him just a bit.
Exactly. And even as you see him,
exactly.
He's still very confident. You see, having that confidence, as Ken, you're saying, everyone is telling you, the States is telling you, don't do this. Europe is telling you, don't do this. And just easy to command, attack. See, so for him, that is narcissism, first of all. And as Ken also was saying, a lack of diplomacy, you see, or let's say low-grade civilization. Bado huja civilized fully.
It's true.
Exactly, because
we were joking. It's only US which is civilized in this world.
Yeah, in terms of democracy.
So you're saying
the West
with the moves he's making, he's lowly civilized. Going to war does not mean you're civilized. As in, how does that relate to one another?
There are better ways to solve issues. Conflict than war.
Rather than war.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, if you're talking about civilization, then
what the US is trying to say is not even don't do this. Is come we talk.
Come we talk. Exactly.
That talk too. Ukraine president called Putin Ashksimu.
Of course.
That point, even we can't even talk about it. So it just shows some level of confidence that Putin has in his superpower and in his military. That guy has one of the biggest nuclear technologies in terms of war. Russia is just one thing to be afraid of. If you look at there's this thing called the Russia kama si idea Russia nitonga nini the intelligence.
I don't know.
I think I've forgotten the name, but it'll come back. So
but it has one of the most complex military.
Exactly. Russia si rahisi, bro. Even the FBI, CIA hawafiki.
It's that one that Douglas has said. You said what?
KGB.
Yeah, KGB.
KGB, bro, ni wa bad. Exactly. So even if you look at what the KGB does in the States, the KGB have a whole branch in the States. And they just do undercover things that even the states, the states itself don't doesn't know, ni undercover agents basically. Haujui sana work for Russia. So Russia is basically, in terms of intelligence, nini. For me, this is who I believe they have a hand. They can pull a hand on the table. They can put a hand on the table and command. So also,
what do you think would happen if these people don't retreat?
If Russia doesn't retreat.
Because if Russia doesn't retreat, obviously someone has to come in and help Ukraine.
Yeah, but now you see the problem even with Europe, they are willing to only take the war inside Ukraine. That is why they're telling people
Not outside.
leave. No.
So that the war can war ground.
War ground sasa.
Who is doing that?
Like Europe.
Okay.
Like they don't want to spread the war to the whole of Europe. Just want it to be contained in Ukraine first of all.
I know that's a desire people have, but you have to look at what people desire and then what could actually happen.
Exactly.
Because even right now we wanted diplomacy, we wanted people to talk, but
Exactly.
what actually happened is a war. The next time we may want people to let that war just be confined here, but in true sense that could also be very, very difficult to happen.
Exactly.
eventually.
And for that also now I believe if the war escalates to that point whereby it breaks out of Ukraine now, gets let's say to Europe, UK and stuff, Germany. Now that is now a point whereby I believe now it can start triggering it to become a world war. No, world war doesn't mean here in Kenya we're also fighting.
Yeah.
It just means the Kenyan army leta kasaidiana huko.
Bas.
So the Commonwealth will come to as a British army. Kenya is sort of under the British army and stuff. So they'll just come like take military from Kenya and fight to Ukraine, military from UG. So now that like it will now escalate to a point whereby now the war will have to involve many countries, not just
One country.
not just one country. Not even sanctions, ni war. Sanctions hiyo ilikuwa ya kwanza huko ku threaten
Ni economy tu.
the economy. Sasa imekuwa sasa full force. Everyone is now in it's tricky. I mean, now as you're saying, that is now the risk in terms of asset prices, especially commodities and inflation linked assets. The cost of living, of course, even here in Kenya, let's expect it to rise.
Exactly.
'Cause
There's
the
no
oil-
way
it will affect,
rise.
oil will
Exactly.
affect everything, the whole world.
So you might be here in Kenya thinking, yuko Russia mimi haini affect. It affects you almost directly.
Everyone.
Because as the oil market rises on this chart, ule msa
Everything.
Mombasa hapati the
Everything.
same price. So that shows you the cost of living worldwide is gonna increase so much. And that is why I was saying earlier, I'm very, very skeptical about seeing what the Fed will do on the 16th.
I don't think they'll hike rates.
Yes,
also.
because now hiking that
fast.
rates exactly
They'll have to
will
wait.
most likely now be another trigger. You see, because if you see at something like MOEX has already reached 2020 lows. That
And
hiyo
even
shamaliza,
breaking it, it's
shamaliza
breaking it.
hiyo, the bull move yenye ili. If you look
been
at
wiped
something
out.
like UK,
Yeah, all that
like,
profit
most of the
out.
other assets ndo zinatoa tu
Ndio
zina
inaanza.
break out from that consolidation ya hapo
Yeah.
juu. So most markets still have a very, very big room to drop down if the war continues to escalate. Yeah, I think I can say that for now.
And I think for me, as I start off, so I like the story side, the movie side. So action, man, boom, boom, boom. So if we look at this, let's start off as we end this part. But anyway, one of the things you have to understand what Ken and Taras were saying, Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union together with Russia. Okay, so Ukraine, if you look at the demographics of the map, it's towards the western side of Russia. Western side. On top of it, there's Belarus. Then towards that's now on top of Ukraine. There's Belarus. To this other side, there's now Europe, Germany, Nini. Now the whole of Europe may cover this other side.
Poland.
Yeah, so it's Europe. Yeah, Germany, evil. And then below it is now more or less like, I think, is it the ocean or the sea or something? There's an island down there called, I think, Crimea or something. I'm not sure of that.
Crimea.
Yeah, Crimea, towards the south now. And Crimea is still part of Russia. They had a fight with Ukraine.
That was in 2014.
Exactly. Ukraine wanted Crimea because Crimea was a very important military spot. You know, like I'm saying, it's an island. It's a sea or ocean. I don't know what.
It's a place in the sea.
Yeah, either sea or the ocean. So it's a very vital spot. You know, now you can get exports and do all that. So it's very important to this. So they had this sort of tussle and fight with Ukraine and Russia, saying who's going to own this. Because remember, Ukraine was part of it. So Ukraine, when was it? I'm not familiar with the dates. Let me not give wrong information. But when they became an independent state, okay, on their border towards now the west of Ukraine, there are these two towns. Okay, they are commonly known as Dubas. It's called Luhansk and Donetsk, something like that. Those two. So this group of people are the rebels. These guys are pro-Russia. They're part of Ukraine, yes.
Yeah.
But they're very, very much pro-Russia. Now, what's his name? Putin wants these people to have independence on their own. They don't want the Ukraine to be part of them. They're really suggesting or pushing for these people to become
their own country
because they're pro-Russia. They're part of Russia. Now, the other side of Ukraine, they are sort of, now they hold Ukraine, the other side, they're pro-Ukraine, but they have sort of similar cultures with Russia because they were one and the same. And they have a whole president, he's called Zelensky.
Yeah.
Volodymyr Zelensky. I don't know why they have those names. They're nice, like any Vladimir, Volodymyr. Looks like some tyrant sort of name. But anyway, so Russia really want these people to have their own territory and all that. So what we were saying with Ken, we were talking about the other day, and also Taras, Americans are always last to enter a war. They don't easily enter. And one thing you should note, they came out of Afghanistan the other day.
Yep.
Not long ago, they came out of Afghanistan. They weren't successful in that, and that
4 months ago.
that stayed in Afghanistan for long.
For 20 years.
For 20 years. Then all of a sudden they came out and they are not successful. So it's not easy for US to just come back in and say, okay, let's support Ukraine, let's enter war. Like Ken was saying, they want civilization and diplomacy instead of all these fights and all that. So if you look at that strategic way, it's really tough. And what Ken was also telling me is that Russia using the what strategy? Blitzkrieg. That's where you confuse your
you like surround your neighbor. You surround your neighbor and then you attack now from different fronts.
Exactly. So you never know where they're coming from. So the people inside don't know where to take their troops.
Exactly.
And you can't just take them everywhere because they'll become scarce as well. But Russia, if you look at Russia is huge, and you're saying it has one of the biggest military. And if you look at the border, they have really surrounded the border. They've even gone to Belarus and they're coming, like you're saying,
they
all
have
angles.
190,000 troops
ready to fight in this country.
Well equipped on air, on sea, on land. Well equipped.
And now today morning we're seeing the missiles that were landing in Kyiv. Kyiv is the capital city of... I'm so against that.
The leader should die first.
That is not patriotism.
Before the followers.
You should be there. Because if you're leading a country and supporting them and giving them morale, and you're out of the country yourself. But anyway, that's the interesting side what we're saying. It's really interesting to watch what is happening. This is something that will go into the books and records what our children will read and watch in future. This actually happened and all that. And we don't know if it will end into a war such that everyone is... Because that's how it started, World War II.
World War II started with Germany invading Hungary. Just small countries.
The next thing you're seeing this Palhaba, wamebomiwa huko Hiroshima.
So it just starts like that.
It just starts lightly. Same way we were saying COVID started lightly. The next thing, the whole world is locked down. So these are things not to take lightly. Don't... Watch what is happening. And Ken was saying, how much do you have saved? How much do you have saved to invade the country or to protect yourself? And also, as you're saying, prices are going to get more expensive. So
life is going to get hard.
Your life in the next few years, it will see the ripple effect. What happened Hiroshima, or after Chernobyl. After that bomb, people were really affected, radioactivity, so the effects were being seen 3 years later.
And I think we've stayed for a long time without seeing such a crisis. Like if you look at some of the crises we've had some few crises here and there, but we've not seen a world crisis like COVID for quite some long time. And the last time we also had a big pandemic was in 1918. That was just
a long time.
That was the Spanish flu. It was just after World War I. Now we have COVID. And now we have World War III. So you can see the correlations. So if you study history, you understand what is really, really happening.
There's a link.
There's a connection.
But over the last 2 years, markets have had we're not even over with this COVID thing.
Omicron bado iko.
Man, markets ndio hizo tunazishaanza kuwa triggered with geopolitical risks. So inflation is here. I think so much is happening in a very short period of time. Because 2 years in terms of 2 years, that is 2020 and 2022. That's a very short period of time, even for long-term investors. So in 2 years, so many things are happening. Sasa kama ule jamaa alikuwa ameinvest morex 2020.
Hello,
Gain imeenda.
all of it because of war.
Exactly. So like the point where we are, the point where we are in the markets also as investors, we also need to be very, very cautious in terms of how you position your portfolio. In terms of risk, knowing when to come out, because
Portfolio restructuring.
Right now, you see gold is going up.
Structure the portfolio.
I think even just from looking at your well wisdom, what we always check American stocks and what these people do. Most of the companies have been investing in the stock markets over the last even before COVID. Actually, COVID just ilipata wase with panic. So Dalio went to that 15% loss, but that guy was still long, like bullish. So but now as you see, gold is coming up, oil is coming up. Those are opportunities. So if let's say you are like, that is the point I'm trying to say is moving with the markets, fluidity. Because maybe you'd be fixated on if they raise rates, then gold will go down.
Like for me, I was short on gold, man. At the starting of this year, I was heavily short on gold. I knew rates are going up, so you should be. But immediately I saw it move higher, break out of that. I immediately changed.
Exactly.
And now you can see even part of the reason for that, I think, is the Russian-Ukraine war.
And it's more or less what you're saying, Taras. There have been a consolidation on the stocks on the upside. Gold itself was in a consolidation. All these breakouts are now being seen. All of them, the metoka. Yeah.
So in markets, you never know what will trigger the markets. You can be waiting for your interest rates,
and you, like Kenny saying, you should be able to be flexible and be open to both sides. How biases on both sides.
And also, price will also show you.
Exactly. Price will tell you.
Yes, you're bearish in your mind,
but price inakataa.
Gold ina break
inaenda juu
1750, 1800, 1850.
Itabidi kwanza hiyo opinion yako unaweka kando for the price.
For the price, and at least now if the price makes sense also with the what is happening in the fundamentals. And that is always how because I teach fundamentals in our course, and I always tell people it's hard for you to trade fundamentals at the heat of the moment.
Yep.
How will you now trade? Kama sasa msanda ku trade size ati sasa wameanza kubom. Hii ni trade tulianza kuona 3 weeks 4 weeks
ago.
So
tumeanza kubom. Okay.
So point is when you're using fundamentals, like understand fundamentals will affect markets in the long term.
Yep.
Even now, if let's say if this war continues and maybe even they raise rates, maybe.
Yeah, will they? It's a tough one.
It's a tough one, but
I think this is one of the toughest situations the Feds have put themselves into.
And already, and especially for guys, you said who started increasing already?
England kwanza wana shida mingi sana. England wana shida mbaya.
So 0.5 size.
It is a few weeks ago.
It's a tough game.
It's a very tough one.
Canada is raising, States is raising. Japan won't raise, of course. Japan
are still negative 0.1.
Japan wachezangi la Reds. Policy yao sijui ni gani hata.
True. And also I was showing you yesterday the point vile nimwambia Russia is a narcissistic country. I was showing you yesterday that the debt to GDP ratio. They have the least debt to GDP ratio in the top 20 countries. A 17% debt. Japan wako na 200
in contrast to America
125%. Yani basically umeomba your whole GDP plus another 25%
on top.
Exactly. So but if you look at Russia, like they tend to be a very, very self-sustainable country. Hata mkiambia sanctions, they're like, also, do you think we will die?
And we have to note that.
And I feel like even they had planned for those sanctions. I don't think these sanctions are actually surprising.
They have strategic guys who already planned for that. And how they can self-contain. And remember, like you said, they're one of the highest oil producing countries, and these guys have been piling up their gold reserves for the longest time.
They now have some of the biggest gold reserves.
They have, I think, even the biggest. These guys have been piling their oil reserves for the US. I'm not sure, but let me check. I
don't think so. I think they have big gold reserves, but I don't think they are above US.
But oil, no. Those guys have oil. And how did Russia buy the
oil from zero, guys? If you've been trading, I've seen oil go to zero. Now I've seen it back to $100 a barrel. History is being made, guys. History. You'll read this in books.
And it's funny, you remember also COVID was Feb March.
Feb March hii period tu ika period
Yeah, volatility period.
crisis ikaanza.
Russia holds more gold reserves than US dollar.
Serious or than the dollar? Okay.
It's not the US country.
But most banks are doing that now, especially after the quantitative easing policies. So most people
that
are
pumping
now
of the dollar.
that pumping of the dollar. But now I'd argue also that during such times, as much as people say gold, isn't that the problem of liquidity? If you're holding gold, I'd rather have cash than gold. I'd rather have the dollar than gold.
So Russia is number 2 at the moment.
The US is
Second
number
largest,
1.
Yeah.
Russia, China number 3.